I actually I need to read my presentation from the papers that I've got here. This is a joint study with Ms. Hajar Lamtari, lecturer in English at the College of Aviation Technology in Kuwait. And to her goes the credit of suggesting the topic of the study in the first place, as well as data collection, analysis of the translation strategies of the beauty product labels in Arabic, into Arabic. This presentation looks at beauty product labels as a manifestation of a specific genre. The main aim of this presentation is to report on an investigation of some distinctive textual patterns that specify this type of text and characterize or classify it as a specific genre in its own right. The ultimate aim is to discover regularities, strategies, motivations, preferences, and defaults in the various text choices. The second aim of this presentation is to consider the types of English to Arabic translation strategies employed for an efficient rendition. The study is based on analysis of a corpus of texts on different cosmetic products, either on the packets or, if this is not available, on the sides of the containers. I need to outline first three basic terms that I have just mentioned and that are essential to this presentation. I shall start from the premise that language is a virtual system of available choices not yet in use. It is a meaning potential, a form of human semiotic, a multiple coding system that is organized into levels or strata. Text, on the other hand, is an actual system in which choices have already been made from their repertoires and utilized in a particular structure within a particular context. Text is a communicative occurrence that is made by participants in real time in a social context. If this occurrence is non-communicative, it is then non-text. According to this definition, a text is a specific configuration of the various lexicogrammatical choices made from the virtual system, organized in patterns that exhibit an underlying textual structure. The selection of the choices is determined by the constraints of the context of situation. Now we come to define the concept of genre. If a number of texts share similar textual patterns, maintain and display a relatively uniform structure, are constrained by a similar context of situation, accomplish similar communicative goals, realize a similar set of communicative functions, address a fairly uniform communication community, these texts will constitute instances of a specific text genre. Now, without trying to infringe the requirements of formal analysis or modeling, I would like to propose a tentative framework or model that we have observed and that underlies the actualization of the beauty product label as a textual edifice. It is tentative in the sense that it still needs further development, further modification, and further refinement. The model is static and not dynamic. It is static in the sense that it enumerates and specifies the structure of the objects that exist in the textual system. It does not attempt to represent the object interactions that exist in during runtime. Now, if there is any dynamism at all in this framework or model, it probably lies in the interaction between two principles or standards of textuality: intentionality and acceptability. But I'm not actually going to deal with this type of interaction. I'm focusing on intentionality. But let me define these two standards or principles of textuality. Intentionality is defined by Bogrand and Dressler as the text producer's attitude that the set of occurrences should constitute a cohesive and coherent text, instrumental in fulfilling the producer's intentions, for example, to distribute knowledge or to attain a goal specified in a plan. Acceptability, on the other hand, concerns the text receiver's attitude that the set of occurrences should constitute a cohesive and coherent text having some use or relevance for the receiver, for example, to acquire knowledge or provide cooperation in a plan. This attitude is responsive to such factors as genre type, which is our concern here, social or cultural setting, and the desirability of goals. Now, we come to the intentionality in this model. Now, intentionality underlying the beauty product labels fulfills the text producer's goals. The text producer here is the manufacturer. There are three main goals that we have identified in the text corpus: advertising, informing, instructing how to use, including advising and warning. Each of these goals activates a communicative language function. Out of the three, the most prominent goal is the use of the label as an advertising tool for the product. The goal of advertising activates the persuasive function of language. The primary aim is to communicate a message that will dispose us favorably towards consumption of the product. The second goal is to pass information on the product. It is essential that the label should impart all the right information related to the product so that consumers know what they are consuming, what they are putting on their body, on their hair, face, skin, eyelashes, eyebrows. This goal will activate the experiential or informative function of language. It is worth noting that the informative function operates by having discrete information units, sometimes grouped within large, visibly independent units. The selection, imposition, and inclusion of the different types of information units in the label are obligatory, dictated to the manufacturers as text producers by official regulations, such as those issued within the United States Code of Federal Regulations, CFR. But this function is also exploited by the text producer, often indirectly, for the purpose of persuading. Here we have a plurality of function. The informative, experiential function is used to advertise, to persuade, to entice individuals and prospects to consume. This is actually a very interesting aspect of the beauty product labels. The third goal activates the instructional function. The labels instruct consumers on how to apply the product safely and effectively. Where, when, how often, how long. Consumers are also cautioned against any potential hazards or misuses. These three communicative functions, persuasive, experiential or informative, instructional, are actualized in two modes, visual and verbal. The product labels are therefore multimodal texts. Now I leave the visual, I concentrate on the verbal. The verbal mode of each function displays a configuration of choices from the language repertoires, mainly from the lexicogrammatical system. Each configuration is organized and realized as patterns that are grouped into textual units or components, each reflecting its distinctive rhetorical features. Now, these units or components are regulated by principles of text design, efficiency, effectiveness, and appropriateness. They also comply to other constitutive standards or principles of textuality, such as cohesion and coherence. In this way, these units or components establish a distinctive construct that instantiates a text genre. Now, because of the limitation of time, I'm going to go now to the second goal of this presentation, and that is the translation strategies. The translation strategies that we have observed in the corpus have the following characteristics. They are responsive to the pluralistic functioning of the beauty product labels and the various textual units or components. They are intended to produce efficient and effective rendition. They may vary in type from one label to the other, which illustrates a degree of flexibility. Now, I don't intend at this stage and in this presentation to pass judgments on the quality of the translations we have examined in the corpus. This could be the topic of another presentation. I'm going to mention 4 strategies applied to the corpus, graded from those creating minimal transfer, that is rendition change, to those requiring maximal transfer change. 4 of these: transplantation, transliteration, literal word-for-word translation, and communicative strategy. Transplantation. This strategy involves removing a language sequence from the source text and introducing it in the target text with the least or no change. This strategy is commonly applied in the rendition of text units that realize the informative function, particularly the brand name, type of product, and ingredients. This is for the sake, this is arranged by actually for the sake of marketing purposes. Brand names are rarely translated. It's put as it is. Next one is, let me give you examples. These brands here, they are not translated. they are simply transplanted. Next one is transliteration. Transliteration refers to the representation of the characters of the source language script by the characters of the target language script. Now, used typically with brand and ingredient names, this strategy involves a conversion operation that aims to A. Enable the automatic and unambiguous recreation of the source text expressions, and B. Help make these expressions phonologically and graphically accessible to the target reader. These are some of the brand names. Look how they are translated. This is transliteration. This is not translation. We are simply, we're using a different script. We are the Arabic script for the words in the English script. Yeah. The next strategy is the word-for-word translation. This is the commonest strategy in translating persuasive, informative, and instructional components. The source language word order is sometimes maintained for the sake of this type of translation. Words are translated singly by their most common meaning in the target language, which is Arabic. Look at the word-for-word translation. Skin smoothing, تنعيم البشر, refines and polishes, ينقي ويصقل, and so on. The last one, the communicative strategy. The translator in this strategy attempts to render the exact contextual meaning of the source text in such a way that both content and language are readily acceptable and comprehensible to the target text readership. The translator is free at approximating the communicative effect in the target language. This sometimes requires addition, deletion, and/or modification of certain text elements. Now, I have actually looked into the use of this type of strategy. Unfortunately, I found that some renditions do not actually capture the message that is intended in the source text, and this is a problem. Let me give you one example. This is in a conditioner. In English, says why we love it. An answer: serum infused formula for moisturized softness. شلون مترجمها؟ يعني هنا عندنا سؤال, we have a question and answer. A question and answer. Now the question and answer, by the way, is a figure of speech, which we call hypophora. A figure of speech where the speaker raises a question and then answers it. المترجم هذا ما سواها. The translator says نعشقه لأنه. No question. A statement. نعشقه لأنه بلسم بتركيبة معززة بالسيرم تمنحك لمسة ترطيب ناعمة. The figure of speech is gone. This communicative strategy did not actually give the effect. The next one is probably even more difficult for the translator. It says on the same product, for A-list casting and red carpet glamour. هاي شلون ترجمة؟ A-list مقصود بها the actors and actresses. People like famous actors, Brad Pitt and his group, and Angelina Jolie. Red carpet, glamour. And the translator says, لإناقة هوليوودية على السجادة الحمراء. راح A-list. This is the best you can do, translating A-list casting. And the meaning, the effective, you see, the line in English is both efficient and effective. Highly efficient, highly effective for the English people. But the Arabic one is efficient, but not effective. That is the problem. And thank you very much. Thank you for listening.